we're flexible. So I'll be back in a few. And here comes Rachel, so the party can start. So I'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll really get started. Please, if you don't come to the first row, I will make you do that at some point. So you're either going to do it now or later. So I invite you to sit in the first row because we're going to have more people here. And here comes Devon for the first. See? Give him a big hand, okay? That's it. And now Maddie needs to follow. So it's like, okay, we're getting started on that. Anyway, enjoy yourselves. I'm sure that Andrew and Zach and company are going to play some nice music for a while, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes. but I just thought we could get started. First and foremost, thank you for making the trip. Some of you, who set the record today? We have Jamie's family from Los Angeles. Did anybody come further than that? Okay, applause for Jamie Albrecht's family coming from LA. But some of you are coming from a headspace that's far, far away. And let's applaud everybody who came from a headspace that's far, far away. And I think that the graduating seniors could be included this year in those who are coming from a headspace far, far away. A couple of details before we get started, because we have, as I say, a couple more people coming, and we want to have as many people here as we start as possible. First of all, after the program, a bunch of fun things are going to happen. I'm going to remind you of this later. We're going to have a very nice spread. Alli, Katz, is it a really nice spread, a super really nice spread, the best spread we could get together? Spoken like the program coordinator of the Kelly Writers House. It's going to be yummy. I always use that word, but I think it's going to be particularly yummy. And alongside the food and spread and nashi kind of things, there will be champagne, which is not, Alli, not typical of our programs. Though many of our audience prefer to have champagne, we don't serve it typically, but we have it today. And so what we're hoping you will do is go back into the dining room, and we're going to improvise that just a little bit, because there are going to be some of you who, after a few moments of being crowded in the dining room, are going to prefer to take your food outside where there's a little more ventilation. And it's a little hard to be masked when you're eating the yummy spread. So, but for the first few moments, I hope we'll all gather there and pour glasses of champagne, not really glasses, but what the Writers House would like to think are glasses, little plastic guys. And so we can toast. That would be fun. Have as much champagne as you like, stay as long as you like. And when you're in there, you will see these things, buttons. Each of the seniors we're celebrating, we have created, this is my Devon button. Maddie's already got her, putting on her Devon button. So I'm afraid that we didn't have a chance for you to put them on now. But when you go back there, you will not only have, some of you, a name tag, you'll also have a button that says that who you're particularly rooting for, even though you're rooting for, 15 people and not just one. So we have buttons. We are making a recording of this, and Zach will nod up and down if what I'm saying is correct. We usually create, first of all, it's live stream. So if you have friends, family, loved ones, grandparents, people you forgot to tell them it's live streamed, what should I say? Go to search for YouTube Kelly Writers House, or just go to YouTube and search Kelly Writers House, and the stream of what's happening now, literally what I'm saying, will be available to everyone who's far away and unable to come, including people stuck in traffic, including some seniors who forgot to get up. You can tell them, hi, we know you're missing your own celebration, but you can watch on live stream from your phone, from your bed. That's not true. I'm just lying about that. Zach, am I correct that we will also later, as soon as we can, segment them? We'll timestamp the YouTube. Okay, so we're going to timestamp the YouTube recording so that you can then go and not that you want to skip the other 14, but you can then, will they have a unique URL? Okay, so when you say, okay, I'm a Rachel Dennis fan, and at 14 minutes and 55 seconds, that's when Rachel, gives their final thoughts, their valediction. And at that point, you can then send the URL to your family and say, if you want to watch Rachel, that's your thing. Did I get that right, Zach? Okay, great. All right. A couple of thank yous and hello before the big, important thank you. Andrew DePass and Paul Burke and the aforementioned Zach Carduner are doing the tech today. It's not a simple matter, and let's give them a big round of applause, please. I think, Andrew, are you a rising senior? So a year from now, you're getting a taste of what this thing is about a year from now. We look forward to celebrating you after another great year. Alli, Katz, also aforementioned, and only a few of us can see her. She's way, way back, smiling under the mask, and yes, thank you, Alli. Katz, our program coordinator. Jamie-Lee Josselyn, whom you will meet, is probably the one person that everybody in this room knows, because Jamie-Lee is responsible for so much of the recruiting of everybody here. There's Jamie-Lee waving. Jessica Lowenthal, the director of the Kelly Writers House. Jessica, how many years as director? 15 years as director. The best director we've ever had, Jessica Lowenthal. So amazing. And so caring. That's word number one for Jessica, caring. David Marchino is here. There's David right there. And I think Julia Morales is here. Yes, and Andrew Beal is here somewhere, and I probably missed someone, and I'm sorry if I did. Okay, I'm Al Filreis, by the way, faculty director and founder of this institution 25 years ago. Yay! The live stream is not so live. It's on a 20-second delay, just in case someone really fucks up. Oh, did I just fuck up? Oh, there's a little nephew. I'm sorry. Where's the nephew? I'm so sorry. Did he hear me say that? Oh. Chelsey, someday will you apologize for that nasty director? Anyway, if you F up, there'll be a 20-second delay and we can wipe it out. Oh, whatever. Okay. This, for 25 years later, this is the 25th of these that I have, with great feeling of honor, presided over. It's my favorite moment of the year. It is very exciting. The format is very simple. One of us, the leadership team of the Writers House, will come up and will very briefly introduce the next senior that we're honoring. And that we ask that senior, and I'll sort of set it up by asking them to come up, and they'll sit here. It's not a hot seat at all. It's just it's a fun raised up seat so that we can see you. We can see you blush when we talk about you, because we have so much good stuff to say about you. And so that's what we do. And this is a chance for the people we want to celebrate, who've spent 4 years plus with us, to Jamie's looking at me like, plus, yay, plus. This is a chance for us to say from the bottoms of our collective heart how much we care about you, how much we're excited about your future, and how much fun it's been mostly to do this with you, and to give you a chance in a fairly non-academic setting to say in a few minutes whatever you feel about your experience. And so I would recommend that everybody here I'm here, to use Rachel as an example, ongoing. I'm here for Rachel. I'm not interested in anybody else, because Rachel is my Rachela. But wait till you see the other 14. Not to say anything. That didn't come out right. Julie, have I gotten better or worse at this? So anyway, you will be amazed by the collectivity, the creativity, the productivity, the imagination, the intelligence of the others. So we urge you to stay, and you will fall completely head over heels, as we have, over all 15 of them. Thank you to family. Thank you to friends, loved ones, partners, siblings, coworkers, grandparents. Any grandparents in the audience? Can we, grandparents, you went through a tough time the last couple years. Congratulations. We want to thank you, okay? This is really hard. We don't get to thank you very often. Many of you took out a second mortgage. Many of you sacrificed a vacation. Many of you were stuck at home with your student that you'd hoped would be out of the house for about a year and a half. Many of you worried, overheard what they were doing or not doing during that part of their education during the worst of the pandemic, and are gratified and also worried. What happened? What is it? What is it they're learning, and what will they come out of this? Across the university this weekend, you will hear many sincere but nonetheless platitudinous, use that word a lot today, platitudinous references to this pandemic class, so-called. We don't buy that idea here at the Writers House. We buy the idea that intimacy and home is not just a metaphor for what would be ideal of the collegiate experience. It is very actually and non-metaphorically what this place is about. The idea of home seems to have been enlarged by most of this culture during this pandemic. I think here at the Writers' House, it only confirmed what we already knew, which is simply that everybody needs more than one place that they think of as home. Because after a while, you grow out of the home, or the parents say, the hell with that, we're moving to a small place and there's not enough room for you, or whatever. Or they go their own way, right? And they want you to go your own way. So we want you to have at least 2 memories of home, a place where you walk in the door and people say, hey, Chelsey, how you doing today? You look a little tired. Can I help you? Can I get you some more coffee or whatever? We want you to think of this place as having been a home. Kaliyah Dorsey. Did Kaliyah just walk in? Eva did, but I thought I saw Kaliyah in the back. No? Okay. Well, I just want to refer to something that Kaliyah Dorsey, who's going to be one of the celebrants today, mentioned in her final exam. She was talking about the Writers' House. She honors this place as having helped her, quote, build a habit of taking ownership of her own ideas. And she writes that from now on, coming out of the Writers' House, I have to work hard at creating a safe environment where students want to talk to me and each other openly. So we prefer not routine learning. We prefer learning community here. We prefer working collaboratively and doing things and producing things and having experiences like internship experience. So I urge you, everyone, to do 2 things. One is to listen to all 15 talk about a diversity of their activities here and their learnings, and think of it as best you can as one whole thing that we've tried to create. Friendship, community, collaboration, passion, which unfortunately too often is antithetical to what is being learned in a particular classroom and needs to be integrated. And finally, love. So I do think that Kaliyah is not quite here yet, but I did want to just at the beginning, before we introduce our first celebrant, I just want everybody in the room to see and acknowledge the people that we're celebrating today. Yiwei Chai, where's Yiwei? Would you stand up? That's Yiwei right there. Rowana Miller, where's Rowana? Eva Lewis is here. Hi, Eva. Ilyse Reisman, where's Ilyse? The inimitable Rachel Swym, who's right there. Devon Inman right here. Erinda Sheno is right here, Erinda. Jessica Bao. Jamie Albrecht is up front. Quinn Gruber is right over there. Husnaa, Hashim, where's Husnaa? There's Husnaa. Rachel Dennis. Chelsey Zhu. And we hope joining us will be Kaliyah. So we want to invite Jamie-Lee Josselyn first to come up and introduce Yiwei. Jamie-Lee. Yiwei, will you come up and sit here?
Oh my goodness. Hello, everybody. Hello, Jamie-Lee. I'm Jamie-Lee. Hi, Al. Hi, Yiwei. Hi. So in July 2017, we met when you arrived in Philadelphia for the summer workshop, our very first summer workshop. You had flown in from Australia, and you were very sleepy from jet lag, but despite that, you were brilliant. During those 10 days, we taught you about writing and, crucially, about donuts. I have a great picture of Yiwei, of baby Yiwei in 2017 holding a donut. Please come see me after. I've been tearing up over it this morning. Tonight, you'll be the first participant from that summer program to graduate from Penn. How exciting! Your professor, Max Apple, told me recently that he loves you, which is high praise. He says that you write, quote, with great precision and powerful psychological insight. I know she's a scientist, he said, but I think she's also such a terrific writer, the whole package. You might be the first astrophysics major and creative writing minor that we've had. And you're certainly the first one who also took French, Russian, and Chinese all at once in your first semester here. I will never advise another advisee to do what you did, but I'm glad that I got a front row seat, and you did it all astonishingly well. Thanks, too, for helping us mind the summer workshoppers in 2019, for being diligent and unfazed by all the dense walls of HTML that Zach tasked you with sorting out, and also for keeping Ian out of trouble. All of us here are so excited for you to become a literal rocket scientist and perhaps maybe a novelist, too. Congrats, Yiwei.
Thanks, Jamie-Lee. So 3 minutes is not a lot of time to stuff in 4 years worth of experiences, so I figured I would just tell 3 quick stories about my time at the writer's house. The first one is actually from senior year. I was here for a shift and headed down to the kitchen to make a cup of tea, as you do, and I set the kettle to boil because there was no water in it, put a tea bag in my teacup and went to go say hi to a friend. And when I came back, I saw that my mug had been filled. And I was very confused because I wasn't sure if I was just totally losing it and I had filled up my teacup and forgotten about it. But this woman came into the kitchen and saw my obvious confusion, and she said, "Oh, I just made you a cup of tea because I figured that someone wanted one." And I was taken aback because this was so kind of her. And I went back upstairs with my cup of tea and was adding links to the pen sound page. And when I opened one of the pages that I had edited to check that I had done everything right, I saw a picture of that woman. And it turns out that she was a pretty renowned poet whose name I had only really previously encountered in event headlines at the writer's house. And I think this incident really says something about how special this place is. A, that you never really know who you're going to run into here and who you'll be able to have the opportunity to speak with. And B, people here are just so kind for no reason other than kindness is worth it. And that's something that I've really loved about my time here. The second story is from, I think, freshman year. I was newly hired and it was a Friday, and I was sitting on the green couch with another staffer, and we were looking to get into some sort of mischief as the day was winding down. So most of you will probably know there's a trunk in front of the green couch that is locked. No one knows what's in it. So, of course, being two people who have zero lock-picking skills, we decided that it would be a great idea to try to pick this lock. And we ended up gathering a bunch of the other staffers who were just milling around, and they had to go, and no one really knew how to do it. And I believe it was either Heidi or Alli, I don't remember who came over. And being a freshman, I was terrified that we were about to get a scolding for trying to vandalize Writer's House property. But I think they actually ended up giving us advice on how to pick it and suggesting other locks in the house to also try. Long story short, none of us were able to get the trunk open, and to this day, I still don't know what's in there. But I think that this was what made working and being in this house such an amazing place to be, because no matter how silly or quirky or creative your idea, someone is always willing to join in and give you a hand with it. And the last story I have is actually about Jamie-Lee and me making questionable advisee choices. So as a sophomore, I was thinking of transitioning into the physics major, despite having come in wanting to do comparative literature or something like that. And I was worried about being behind on my major requirements. So I went to Jamie-Lee and I said, "Can I please take 6.5 credits this semester?" And Jamie-Lee said, "I'm not going to say no because I'm not the kind of person who says no. But if I were, I would be saying no. Please don't do this to yourself." So of course, like any wayward teenager who thought she knew what was best, I did it anyway. and I did regret it. So I wanted to take this opportunity to say, Jamie-Lee, I'm sorry for never listening to you. But also, thank you so much for always saying yes to me anyway. And I think that you really embody the spirit of the Writers' House in this way, in that Penn can be a pretty alienating and hectic place, but I feel lucky to have never really felt that way, because from the very beginning, my time at this university has been framed by you and by the Writers' House, and I know that the Writers' House is also a place that will always say yes to me and yes to every student who walks through its doors. So thank you so much to everyone who has made this place such an amazing home on campus, and I feel so grateful and fortunate to have been part of this community during my time here at Penn. Thank you.
Thank you, Yiwei. Wow. We have strategically located boxes of tissues. I'm handing one out right now. There's plenty. Tom Hanks in a movie said that, there's no crying in baseball. I don't really care about that, but there is crying in higher education if you have a place like this. I would like to call up Rowana Miller now to be honored. Rowana Miller. Also recruited by the aforementioned Jamie-Lee Josselyn, and I'm honored to have been Rowana's advisor all these years. Rowana won the Carey Prize, the Carey Sharon Wright Prize, and with the money that we made available to her, created something called Word Camp. And Word Camp came at just the right time because middle school kids needed Word Camp. Rowana is not one to do a project and then just, go on to the next thing. To say the least, Rowana is someone who has an idea, pushes it hard, is resilient and persistent, energetic. In fact, I think the people of the Writers' House probably realize that they have, when meeting Rowana Miller, getting to know Rowana Miller, they realize they have met one of the most perspicacious, and there's another nice word, and persistent people ever. Combine that with passion, sensitivity, ideas that many of us consider the kind of ideas that are going to make this society better rather than worse, has developed this idea into what is now, I think, a 501c3 official nonprofit called Cosmic Writers. Rowana is now the executive director of Cosmic Writers, and Jamie-Lee Josselyn and I are members of the board of advisors. And Ian is here. Where is Ian? And Ian, too. We are so proud and so supportive. And Rowana, as I say, is the kind of person who would have done Word Camp and Cosmic Writers no matter what. But what the heck? She and her colleagues, Manoj and others, applied for a prize that we have never, in this end of campus, I mean in the right brain, nonlinear thinking sense of this end of campus, we've never been acknowledged in this, the recipient of this prize. But this year, Rowana Miller and her colleagues won the Presidential Engagement Prize, which provides funding, let us say something like $100,000 for Word Camp and for Cosmic Writers to launch just at the point when you're graduating and are looking for something really perspicacious to do. We are so honored by this, so honored that you hung out with us and are now going to take this idea, which I just want to say, for the record, is a real Writers' Housey idea, and to bring it forward. And in the motto of Cosmic Writers, we all agree with you and believe, and I'm sure everybody in this room, even hearing this tagline for the first time, will agree, every child deserves a high-quality creative writing education. Rowana Miller.
Al, thank you so much for saying all these nice things about me. I have a lot of the same things prepared, but a little bit less complimentarily. And so I'm gonna be winging it a little bit. Al, thank you so much for being my advisor and for saying all of that. The Kelly Writers House was what brought me to Penn, and it has been my home through the past 4 years, as I'm sure everybody will say today. And it has also set me up to pursue what I love most in the world after I graduate. I met Jamie-Lee when I was a junior in high school. She came to my high school literary magazine, and she talked about the Writers' House. She talked about how there was a home for writing at an Ivy League school, which seemed wild to me at the time. I had just never considered that was a possibility. And then when I visited Penn and the Writers' House later that year, and I sat in on an Al class, one of his fellow seminar classes, I saw and felt how this place contained the people who I wanted to surround myself with in the ideal version of my life. And then I got here, and that's what happened. The people at the Writers' House are the best people in the world. They are passionate and joyous, and they care so much. People at the Writers' House take what matters to them, and they make it a reality. Somebody like Jamie-Lee, who was one of the first people who I met here, she created her job. She said, we need to have some way of bringing creative writing students to Penn. And Al said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And then she's been doing that. And she has created this community of students who really, really care about writing. And it's this spirit of passion feeding passion that I love so much about the Writers' House. It's where I've met my best friends, Leah Baxter, who I lived with for 2 years and who I'm so excited to be moving to New York with so I can hang out with her again. She graduated last year. I miss her. She in the Wexler studio at the back of the Writers' House, one of the pivotal moments of my time at Penn was when she closed the door. We were working, it was a shift. I'm really sorry, it was close to the end of the shift. We weren't working that hard at that point. And I told her something that was worrying me about a relationship with somebody I loved. And she asked me if I had talked to the person about the problem I was having. And I said, no, that sounds stupid. Why would I ever talk about the problem that I'm having with somebody? And she said, Rowana, communication is key. And Leah Baxter, I didn't know her very well then. She's my best friend in the world, but at the time, she was a fellow staffer who I liked very much, but who did not have to spend her time sharing her knowledge with me. But her abundance of love and kindness, I was a freshman. Can you tell I was a freshman? Her abundance of love and kindness inspired her to sit down and tell me something that was life-changing for me. And Leah is so one of so many people who I've met who will be in my life forever at the Writers' House. Sam Kaufman, Quinn Gruber, Victoria Garcia. I live with them all now. They're some of my best friends in the world. The Cosmic Writers team, of course. Rebecca Donnell is on my leadership team. And the Writers' House members who are on the Cosmic Writers board, Al, Jamie-Lee, Ian. I'm so lucky that I get to take the spirit of the Writers' House with me for the rest of my life, because the spirit of the Writers' House is in the people who are here. The Kelly Writers' House, thank you, and I love you.
Winner of the Presidential Engagement Prize, Rowana Miller. There she is. Next up is Eva Lewis. Eva, will you come and sit here, and Alli Katz is going to be introducing Eva.
Oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. It's like a famous person. Okay, so my big brag is that Eva is the most famous person to graduate from my middle school. And I think about that a lot. I think it might be. She's definitely the coolest and most accomplished person, probably that I know. Her work fighting for racial and social justice, which she works so hard for, has taken her so many places. And if I were to list all of those places, we would be here all day. She founded a nonprofit when she's 15 that she still runs, the Free Root Operation, supporting Black and brown communities on the south side of Chicago. She's done TED Talks, interviewed Michelle Obama, wrote for Teen Vogue, has won so many awards. I'm not going to list them all because, like I said, all day. And it's a person, Eva's a person I'm proud to know. Jessica sums it up best because Jessica's really good at summing things up. Eva stands out among students as unusually driven and passionate about her core beliefs, about political activism, about doing the hard work to enact social change. She's easily one of the most resourceful, passionate, and resilient people I have ever met. And I mean, I feel the same way. Just missing Eva on the day-to-day basis through all of this has been hard because she's an inspiring force. She fights injustice where she sees it and has lived it. She strengthens her community, creates networks of support and aid against racism, poverty, and gun violence, and those are huge. And the efforts you've made, Eva, are huge. And Eva is also cool and funny and a musician and a writer and a friend and a person that I've just been delighted by on so many occasions. And I know that Eva is going to do big things because Eva's already doing big things. She'll just keep going. But I also know that Eva will continue to grow and be more herself every single day. And getting the opportunity to see that in a person is one of the blessings of my job. And getting to see that in Eva has been one of the delights of my life. So Eva, I already miss you. But I know that you are working to make Chicago basically the greatest city in the world, a better place. And I know that you'll keep doing all of the great things that you're doing.
No. Alli is can you hear me? Hi. Alli is one of my favorite people. Hi, everybody. I haven't been here physically in like 3 years. So it's just really great to see so many of your faces and to just be in a place that was so pivotal in my development and made me feel so safe and supported in my time at Penn. I just want to say that the Kelly Writers House, I feel like, is a very radical place, especially to be in an Ivy League and to also be a first-generation low-income student, a Questbridge scholar that was here. Yes, it was a work study, and I found it because I looked up right into the system. So I can't say I came here for KWH, but I am so grateful that I had it because through this place, I was able to learn about nourishment. I mean, like, we made charcuterie boards and like shopped at Trader Joe's, and I feel like Kelly Writers House fuels my Trader Joe's obsession that I have now, which was also really important because, like, you know, food apartheid, food deserts and whatnot, so I just didn't have that sort of access, and so I was just able to really explore and learn about all these different foods and congregate and have really amazing conversations with so many different types of people, meet so many different types of people, and just feel like that radical spiritual, mental, emotional support that comes with being in a community that tries to see and understand you beyond how the world tries to see and understand you. So I'm just really grateful, and I don't know if I have much many things that are funny to say, except for the fact that evidently I played quite a few pranks on Alli my freshman year. I don't remember most of them, but she tweeted recently, and what was it? She said that I put a Post-it underneath her desk and said look for donuts, and then I said flip it over and it said psych. And then also me and Jamie taped her mouse so that it wouldn't work many times. But yeah, it's a great place to be. Very enjoyable. And I'm just really grateful. So thank you, everybody. And special shout out to Alli for holding it down and Jess for holding it down, too. They are amazing people and probably two of my favorite people at Penn who work here. So, and everybody else, Al, Jamie-Lee, everybody who's held this place up, I appreciate all of you. So thank you.
Eva Lewis, everybody. Thank you, Eva. Ilyse Reisman is next. Come on up, Ilyse. It's your time. I've been teaching at Penn. Hi, Ilyse. I've been teaching at Penn for a long time. I think it's 36 years, and I have never met a student more tenaciously seeking to understand everything, truly. Whenever we came to a point in our conversations, or in particular in our courses, and Ilyse either didn't understand, maybe for some lack on her part, but I doubt it, or didn't understand because something happened in class that made things opaque and obscure, that upset her. And it upset her in a way that is going to be very fortuitous for you in life. You want to understand. Understanding is so much more important than any sort of disciplinary knowledge. When we say interdisciplinary at Penn, what we really mean is to understand and to synthesize. You're okay. And this really works well, except when you take a course here at the Writer's House and it's all about not understanding, about things that cannot be articulated and things that that cannot be comprehended. A course, for instance, about genocide. What can you say that is knowledgeable and accurate about why such a thing could ever occur? And it was a crisis for Ilyse. But it was a crisis that worked okay in that course because everybody was overtly in the same situation. But then she made the happy choice, and I think at first thought it was a mistake, of joining the poetry class, which is about the same stuff, only without the, shall we say, more explicit and obvious reasons why it's okay not to understand. Let me just pause and say that one of the problems with Penn, a problem besets every intelligent student who arrives on this campus, is that there is this thing at Penn, like you're supposed to know everything and get everything, and if you don't get anything, there's something wrong with you. That is such a curse here, campus-wide, truly. We really have to have intellectual and educational spaces where it is okay not to understand. So she joins this poetry class and is freaking out, I think it's safe to say. And we arranged for a phone call. And I was on my daily run. I ran 4 miles. I had intended to run 2 that day, but Ilyse and I talked the entire time. And because an old person running, usually I can't say that much, so it was mostly Ilyse. And we had our best conversation ever. Why should I do this? I don't understand this open-endedness. I don't want to be in that, having that feeling like that I don't know what this means. And we had a great conversation, Ilyse, and you stayed with it. And it was really, I thought, as successful and important a semester for you in your academic life as the Holocaust class had been before it. So I honor both things, Ilyse, as I give way here so you can say your valediction. I honor both things. I honor that you have this drive to understand stuff and get it right And you also respect now, having come of age here, in this house, in these courses at this university, you are okay with things that you will not know. And you will drive forward to help us all figure it out collaboratively, just as we did on that 4-mile run. Well, you weren't running, but I was. Ilyse, I honor you. I have nothing but praise for you. I know you're going to do amazing things. Congratulations. Ilyse Reisman.
I never told you, but I pronounce my last name Reisman like Filreis.
Oh my gosh. Why didn't you ever tell me? I guess it's one of those things that you can't ever know.
Better late than never. When you go to a school like Penn, you may feel like you're doing the wrong thing from time to time. When people tell you what they're doing while they're here and what they're doing after they graduate, it is easy to feel like you are studying the wrong thing, joining the wrong thing, applying to the wrong thing, and going on to pursue the wrong thing. I know what you were expecting will come next. Kelly Writer's House showed me that I was actually doing the right thing. But it's not that simple. Because of Kelly Writer's House, I was able to remove that entire framework. I am doing the right thing not because I am not choosing to do what other people are doing and taking a stand against pre-professionalism. It is the right thing because it is not relative. We are not relative. English isn't not econ. Music isn't not biology. Entertainment isn't not finance. I am not Penn. I am Penn, and I'm a girl flying across the country to pursue her dream of working in entertainment, and it was Penn that showed me this. It was Kelly Writer's House. Kelly Writer's House showed me that I'm an individual with my own merit doing the right thing because that thing is inherently mine. And that right thing isn't understanding everything or knowing everything. It's just knowing the value in and the duty of the person you truly are in a community that hears you. And now I know. Thank you to everyone at the Writer's House. Thank you to Jamie-Lee for showing me back in high school that there's a diamond in the rough. At the time, I thought this diamond would just be my haven, but what I didn't realize was that diamond would be capable of showing me my own reflection one day. Thank you to Lily, Anna, Sophia, Jonathan, Davey, every remarkable TA I've had in classes I have taken at the Writer's House. Each and every one of you was a breath of fresh air, a source of insurmountable wisdom, and true models for positive learning. You challenged me to think in ways I have never thought before. Thank you to Mingo and RJ for being such wonderful resources and for being true supporters of my career by helping me navigate the entertainment industry and my future. Thank you to every student, every John Legend, and every Elizabeth Banks here who has been in my classes or clubs. Each of you have blessed me with your sometimes intimidating wisdom, and I can't wait to see what you all accomplish after you graduate. Thank you to my parents. My dad actually found Kelly Writer's House on the Penn map when it was raining during the homecoming game, and led me back and let me hear back in high school. And I don't know many parents who will not only acknowledge their child's true interests, but support their child and have faith in them when they pursue those interests as well. So thank you for everything, Mom and Dad, and to the rest of my family for your support and for being here today. Lastly, thank you to Al, my advisor, my professor, my mentor, and my guide. You handed me the mirror so I could look at myself for who I truly am. This person is not relative, and she is confident in who she is and what she wants to do. Now I need the tissues. You taught me that sometimes certain things are just indescribable, that certain things just are. I will go on and, as a writer, still not be able to say in words how you and everyone at the Writer's House continues to affect me. But that's okay. Just know that you will be. So thank you.
Ilyse Reisman. I love the dad shout out there. That was good. Next up is Rachel Swym, sitting in the seat here, and Jessica Lowenthal to introduce Rachel.
Okay. This is weirdly hard. I don't know if you all know that. Okay, so the best email I received all year was from Rachel Swym. This is a quote. "Can I build a blanket fort in the garden for a midnight adventure?" Blanket fort would have been enough to make it the greatest email, but Rachel followed up with that somewhat modest request, or maybe it's an outlandish request, by describing how she'd care for the garden, and she asked when the blanket fort might be least disruptive, and she offered her movie projector in trade for this adventure. This was like modest but outlandish request combined with extraordinary community care, and I feel like this is exactly the kind of Rachel move I and others have come to expect. Her colleagues in the Social Deduction Club describe the way she's always there to help with all of the parts on the Slack channel, with the posters, all the stuff. She's like the mom of SDC, they say. Deb Burnham in the English department describes Rachel as energetically compassionate. If someone is in trouble, Deb says, Rachel will express kind and useful sympathy, but also take the extra steps to seek out help that the friend might not have the strength to find alone. I feel this really deeply. I and others have admired all the ways Rachel has used this energetic compassion, which is the right way to say it, to fuel so many projects right here at Penn, like helping to organize a 24-hour gaming thing online, all to raise money for CHOP, or creating a free virtual reading series for kids also during the pandemic, or sewing like a million gazillion costumes for all the shows at Penn, mostly for kids, but to bring characters alive. So I want to say, Rachel, your energetic compassion, again to quote Deb, is truly inspiring, and I hope you'll make blanket forts for all of your friends forever, and I hope you'll come back and do it here in our garden. Rachel Swym.
All right, it's a race against time till I cry, folks. So first off, thank you to everyone here today, my fellow seniors of the Writers' House, the wonderful professors who work here, and all of the staff whose door frames I've lurked at with questions. Love you all. I wrote my application essay to Penn about the Writers' House. To quote from it, "We dream of such places so much that we write them into our tales, as hidden forest cities housing wise and helpful elves, mountaintop monasteries full of sage battle-scarred scholars, and secret guilds behind beaten alleyway doors protecting kind craftsmen willing to pass on their secrets. They hold everything you need, answer everything you ask, and when you leave, you find that not only did you find what you sought, but you discovered something about yourself too." The kicker about that quote, I hadn't been to the Writers' House yet. That's how strong the spirit of the Writers' House is, even online, which would become incredibly relevant a few years later. There was an article that ran in the New York Times yesterday called "My College Students Are Not Okay." It said things that aren't new to any of the students or recent graduates in the room, struggling through recorded lectures, bombing tests, turning in assignments egregiously late, and not being able to explain quite why it's happening. I've certainly felt that. No one has had all of the answers about online learning, and I don't expect them to. But the Writers' House is one of the places that's been most devoted to listening to what students needed during virtual and post-virtual schooling. Whether we needed to tune further in or tune all the way out, the Writers' House understood and stood by until we came back. And beyond the base generosity of this house, this is because the Writers' House is so devoted to listening to and supporting the people who move through it. Writers House seems to understand what it means to be human at Penn, and is trying to understand what it means to be a student and a writer during the pandemic. That's honestly a rarity. I've watched how and when I write fluctuate wildly over the last few years, from something untouched to a lifeline, and even when I was insecure in my own identity as a writer, the Writers House's love wasn't conditional on it. The Writers House's love wasn't conditional on anything except offering some care back to it and the people around it. When a friend or I has an idea, however harebrained, my first response was always to bring it to the Writers House, because this is the place that would foster such nonsense. Not everyone who works at the Writers House, whether the work is a job, a club, or scholarship, will become a full-time writer, certainly, but I believe everyone who makes contact with the house comes away from this university a little healthier, a little more grounded than they might have been otherwise. One can't enter a space like this space that brings people into it with an intention, a mindset, and leave unchanged. And that's why, too, it's so tempting to speak of the Writers House as a unit and a whole, instead of a building. A temptation I couldn't resist in my application and can't resist now. This is not an unchanged unit. It is a unit that is constantly in flux due to the people that move through it, but remains with a central heart that will always stay true. The word house is capitalized every time in this speech on my phone, because it deserves it. Moving forward, I hope to find myself in houses similar to this one, with thinking across contexts at their center. And it is only as I am leaving that I realize how rare and special these places are. I suppose, then, it is up to us to recreate a little bit of Writers House wherever we go, whatever that means to us. A deep thanks to all of the people of this house who helped make it that sweet space: Jessica, Alli, Al, all my fellow seniors. And to all the people who helped get me to it. And thank you to this beautiful house that holds us. Thank you.
Rachel Swym. How's everybody doing? Don't you all feel like you're graduating? Devon Inman, come on up. Maddie, you want one of these? There you go, pal. We're all everybody who knows Devon is really thrilled about this moment. You know, because he's lived a life, a various one of intense employment in the food world and of service to his country. But he's always wanted, as I understand it, one thing most of all: a BA from a great university. I wish I had the honor right now. If I wish that the dean would just text me and say, you're allowed right now to give Devon his degree. Because for me, it would be a signal honor to bestow upon you right now the actual degree. I don't know what the actual, we used to call a sheepskin, what it actually does. You'll frame it and you'll forget about it, but what it means is huge. And I wish I could formalize that, but I'll do maybe the second best, to be as joyful as you are and people who love you are, that you have achieved this. So let us pretend like I'm giving him the degree right now. I confer upon you, Devon. I have to give it to you. Wait a minute, hold on. I confer upon you, Devon Inman, the degree of Bachelor of Arts and Sciences at the University of Pennsylvania. Congratulations. I need that back. You, in the middle of teaching on Zoom and learning on Zoom, we had a Writers House Fellows seminar in which the third of the three fellows was the great Gabrielle Hamilton, food writer, chef, memoirist, restaurateur, genius person. And that is, let's just say, the main reason why you took that class. Although you loved the other stuff, when we got to Gabrielle, you let us, now how hard is this online? We're talking about food. And Devon, at one point for his special projects, got on Zoom. We all watched him, and he made a French omelet for us on Zoom. And then you got to eat it, and we didn't. Which was the one damned advantage of Zoom class. And then when it came time for Gabrielle, how you doing, Maddie? When it came time for Gabrielle to come to be part of us, she also visited online. Of course, it was Devon who introduced Gabrielle. And I could tell you were so nervous about that, and you did so brilliantly, and she loved it. And Gabrielle Hamilton had such a good time and was so honored by the introduction that she said, look, this wasn't good enough. When we're done with online stuff, I want to come to the writer's house, and I want to make a meal for you all. Anybody who knows Prune, Gabrielle Hamilton by reputation, that's a pretty amazing thing. She came to Philly. She got all the food. I think she brought all the food herself, right? We did some shopping, but mostly her. And she spent the entire day in the kitchen, and she served this amazing meal under the tent outside with a lot of the Writers House fellow students from the previous semester there. And there were 2 people helping her all day cook, and one of them was Devon. And I can only imagine what an honor that was to spend the day cooking with this great chef. And so it seemed inevitable that I would ask Gabrielle Hamilton to teach a course here. So in the fall, she'll be teaching a course on food writing. It is quite amazing. There's a big line around the block for people who want to get into it, and she'll be teaching in this building. And I thought, wow, Gabrielle Hamilton has not taught a course before. I'm sure this is going to be crazy, just in terms of coordination. And so I thought, who could be the teaching assistant for this course? And I thought of someone who would have a Bachelor of Arts at the University of Pennsylvania who would be legitimately able to teach, to be the TA. And so you are looking at the teaching assistant for Gabrielle Hamilton's course. I think the future is, first of all, being a chef at an amazing restaurant, and then maybe someday creating your own restaurant. Maybe so. And if so, I would like to urge everyone in this room on that day to get on the train and go to, inevitably it'll be in New York, but maybe not, maybe here, and to taste some of the sweet talent of this person whom we now put our hands together and honor, along with me, Devon Inman.
All right, guys. I wrote this while I was sitting right there. And I couldn't put it on my phone because I maybe had too much wine at dinner last night, and somehow it ended up at Julie's house. So sorry for the laptop as well. Dahlia is the name of the restaurant. It's my little 5'2" Mexican grandmother who's the greatest person in the world. So that will be it when it happens. All right, you guys. Don't post. No one saw that. Sorry, I'm too tall for this mic. All right, don't post this online. My family doesn't know that I'm here. Also, I'll lie to you guys. I was never looking to come to Penn. I was never looking to be a writer. I had never heard of the University of Pennsylvania. I was simply, really, truly just a broke and down on my luck line cook, 6 months separated from an enlistment in the military. I was couch surfing through community college and slinging pies in front of a 9-foot, 900-degree wood fire oven in a tin can on wheels. It was very hot. When a series of unimaginably fortunate events unfolded for me. And I found myself at an institution where there was an actual castle outside my window, which is like, that shit's crazy. It still trips me out. I was lucky, but I was still broke. And so I came to know the Writer's House as a matter of circumstance. I was fucking hungry. And I found through a friend, some of my absolute closest friends in the world, that the Writer's House had food all the time. And I think that might be why there's now a Devon-sized indention on the green couch back there, because I pretty much moved in here. And so, yeah, thanks, Al, for the food and the wine that I may have had snuck too much of once or twice. And thank you for maintaining and facilitating, and everybody for creating this space where I really came to know myself, and I found the language to articulate things that I could never have worked my way through without the guidance of editing and deconstructing a text and, you know, beholding things in all of their constituent parts and appreciating them individually and filtering it through myself. And yeah, you guys have made me and created unimaginable opportunities. And yeah, I don't know where I would be without, or who I would be without this place. Thank you guys. Also, to my fellow seniors, fuck yeah, we made it. Let's go.
Devon Inman, everybody. Congratulations, Devon. Erinda, Sheno, come on up to the hot seat. And introducing Erinda is David Marchino.
Hi, everybody. Hi. All right, so I only got like a minute to like fit in all the compliments, so we're gonna see. Yeah. All right. So I've had the pleasure of supervising Erinda the last 3 years, but before I came to know her as the sensitive, generous, brilliant person that she is, I met her first as a nervous high school kid from Northeast Philly. 4 or 5 years back, over in the writer's house living room on the brown leather couch, I talked up KWH to a nervous 18-year-old, just as my job as assistant to our recruitment director required. I can't really recall the specifics of what we discussed that day, but I remember leaving our meeting, returning to my office, and promptly reporting to Jamie-Lee that Erinda was someone we needed to go to bat for. Erinda was the type of student that Penn would be better for admitting. How she made such an impression remains hard to define. It could be that, as a fellow public school kid from the Northeast, I was able to recognize in her the aloof shine that elite institutions so often overlook. Or perhaps I could foresee the joy we'd share in my office years later listing L-stops from memory. Allegheny, Tioga. Other way. We're going eastbound? Yeah, we're going home. Going home? Erie Toursville, there we go. Whatever the case, I stand here, now gleefully correct, that this place is better for having had her. At events like these, people often discuss what it means to break boundaries. But lost in the cliche is the transgressive quality of that act. Boundary breakers intrude. They trespass. And as a Philly native, Erinda has a natural aptitude for pushing into where some might think she doesn't belong. Whether it be the summit of a freshly greased lamppost, go Birds, the paid side of a SEPTA turnstile briskly hopped, or the interior spaces registered and enrolled of an Ivy League institution, we Philadelphians persevere. Erinda, you carry hope, empathy, and kindness into any space that you enter. And next year, one thing that I'll miss most is making you late for pretty much all of your classes by refusing to end our conversations. Thanks for being here, and congratulations.
So David was my supervisor for about 2 years. I don't know. And then I left a really good gig, and then I went to did another work study gig. But so CBCW, that's a shout out. CBCW is a great place to work. But a CBCW story from my first day. I was a sophomore, so it was my sophomore fall, and I had my interview with David just like a couple weeks before, and I had a resume printed out, and I don't really print out my resume. I also don't look at it often. So that was a very this is a pre-professional moment for me. And so going into my first day, I was going to sort of hit the ground running, and I had this interview. I had a resume out. I never have a resume out, and this is my first day at a work study job, and even though it's work study, it's still a job, so I'm gonna do great at it. And David gave me my tasks for the day, and CPCW has this great kitchen where people can congregate. And yeah, so he said just fill up the dishwasher, because they had just had lunch or something, and so it was an easy first task to start my new job. I was no problem, but even though it's a simple task, I'm gonna do it really well, and I'm gonna impress my supervisor. I'm gonna impress everyone here. So I did that, and I filled it up, and I put the soap in the thing, and then I closed the dishwasher, and I set it, and I went back out front, and an hour later, Amanda Serberling, she comes running out to David, and she says, the dishwasher's the thing that it does when you add dish soap and not the dishwasher detergent. Which is a very polite way of saying the kitchen is filled with bubbles. And I was there. I was right there. I was sitting there. It's that, as she delivered that news, and I was I'm gonna get fired. So, I'm gonna lose my job. It's my first task, my first day. But of course, that of course didn't happen. No one. I thought I was gonna get kind of of course that I didn't get. David just kind of got up. He laughed about it. Everyone was really great about it. I mean, a kitchen is filled with bubbles. I remember Mingo. She was no, this is great, and picked some bubbles up and made a bubble beard, and I was and that kind of set the stage for the rest of my experience working there, which is the people are so great at CPCW, and that extends to the Writers' House as well. I think that's what made the most of my experience here. Penn is, of course, coming from the school district of Philadelphia, and it's this was the greatest experience, 4 years of that I could have ever asked for, being at the school. But what really made it for me was the Writers' House and CPCW and the people. And I guess the last thing is so thanks to Jamie-Lee, I recently received a letter from my 18-year-old self, because on the day before our first day of classes of freshman year, all the advisees sat down in a room upstairs, and we wrote letters to ourselves 4 years from now. And I read mine, and my 18-year-old self's only real wish for myself now was find joy. I hope you found joy throughout these 4 years. that was it. I didn't have any academic goals, which is not to say I didn't have them. I just didn't write them. I know I've found that, like, now at 22. Like, I'm not unsure about it. I know for a fact that I can recall every time I've walked in here, I've found joy. I've had those moments, and they're just countless, and I'm really grateful for them. You've been like, you're like my big brother at Penn. I can't thank you enough, and it's like a gift. Your friendship is like a gift, and it's a joy to know you. So, thank you.
Erinda Sheno, everybody. Congratulations, Erinda. Next up is Jessica Bao, and Jamie-Lee is going to be introducing Jessica. Come on up, Jessica and Jamie-Lee.
I was not at CPCW the day of the infamous dishwasher incident, but I was on Slack, and my colleagues, we were all so happy. We were like, I can't believe this happened. It was amazing. Jessica, when you took my first person storytelling class your freshman year, you leaned into stories that were difficult. You've confronted topics in both your work and in your life. And in a lot of ways, I think your work and your life are very much intertwined, like identity and culture, victim blaming and violence, and institutional failure. Your voice has been heard by people who've needed to hear it. And I know it hasn't been easy. I remember encouraging you at the end of our semester together to keep writing and to stay involved with the Writers' House. And I had no idea how seriously you would take it and how much better we would all be for it. In February of 2020, just before our campus shut down, you performed in Penn monologues. I think that was the last public Penn event I might have gone to before everything changed. And you bore witness to a traumatic experience in your performance. While we were remote, you wrote and you wrote and you wrote, and you won. You like cleaned up in our creative writing prizes. It was a little much, honestly. It's like Jessica Bao. Okay. And you were selected as our Real Arts intern for the Museum of the Moving Image. But most crucially, you've served with compassion as the editor-in-chief of F Word, our feminist magazine. In your last issue, you write about discovering the magazine when you arrived on campus as a freshman. And you write, without the F Word for the past 4 years, I would not be here today. We are so glad you are. And we are so grateful for the stories you've told, and maybe even more importantly, for the stories you've supported others in telling. So thank you.
I'm a little nervous because I think as some people here know, I've like never been awake this early. This is very new for me. So, I wrote this little speech last night about a Taylor Swift song because I think lately I, like a lot of English majors, have been listening to Taylor Swift. So this song, it's a old one and it is a new one because it's on one of her re-released albums. They're really good. It's called Nothing New, and there's a line in it. It says, "How can a person know everything at 18 but nothing at 22?" It's a bit cheesy, but recently I've felt like that a lot because people say that college is supposed to be the best years of your lives, and if you hadn't known yourself at the beginning of it, you would find yourself by the end. But for me, I don't know if that exactly has been true. Looking back at the 18-year-old who visited Penn for the first time, walking into Kelly Ryder's house on Quaker Days, all excited, I quite miss her. Because sometimes I think she was more confident, more self-assured. She seemed to know exactly who she was and where she was going in the world. School every fall and spring. And she was kind of fearless. She didn't have to worry about back pains or brain injuries. And she thought that she knew everything. And I miss that teenage bravado sometimes. However, when I would miss this young, fearless me thinking that she knew everything precisely because she knew nothing, I would also think about what I've come to learn the past 4 years and what I would probably only continue to learn as we get older. What I've traded that blind, pretty myopic, beautifully idiotic sense of self for was a deeper knowledge of and a greater appreciation for the world around me. And more importantly, its people. Yes, maybe I don't know exactly who I am right now or exactly where I'm going in the fall or in the future, but I know exactly who is going to help me get there and never abandon me along the way. I know that my parents would always be there for me and support me like they have always done so in the past, and especially during these past 4 years when I finally thought that I would allow them to worry less and be more proud of me through my budding academic achievements. Finally in college, a freak pipe fell on my head, and so I went right back to needing them as much as before, maybe more, and they never complained, and I think they have always been proud. I look at the teenage Jessica who didn't know or see these things happening around her. My dad driving me and my friends 4 hours away to a music festival just because we wanted to go, or my mom giving up her career in China to bring us to America. I don't know if I would want to have that kind of knowledge back. I can't promise I won't ever fight with my sister again or do something stupid. I mean, just a few days ago, I was mad at her because she couldn't make it to my graduation because she's in London right now. But now at least I also know that she is the best thing to have ever happened to me. During my time at Penn, I can't say that I've not been disillusioned by certain things, but I've also been illuminated by many others. Maybe I won't be an editor-in-chief or a publisher like I so ambitiously thought when I first joined the F Word, my home and community here within the Writers' House, but I know that there are people out there who will support me no matter what, who will be with me through thick and thin, and who will teach me about right and wrong, and who will share the same value and understandings about the world, and a desire to shape it for the better. It was as a part of the F World that I attended my first Take Back the Night march in Philly. It was through this community and the connections that I made here that I was able to participate in the Penn monologues, that I felt brave and comfortable enough to share my words on stage. When I was assaulted, the F Word gave me the power and the courage to tell my story anonymously, without which I would have never been able to eventually publish it under my own name in 34th Street magazine. Though sometimes I might feel lost and alone in this world, or unmoored and frightened within this grand, sometimes cold institution, I know that there are warmth and sympathy to be found at Kelly Ryder's house, a persistent care for the world and for each other. At the end of it, it is true I am often shocked by how much a person can know or think they know everything at 18, but then realize that they know nothing at 22. But I guess that's not really a bad thing, because as much as I don't know or have lost today, I know who can and will help me find it again. Thank you to my family and friends for being the thing that I can know and count on today. And thank you to Kelly Ryder's house for the same thing.
Jessica Bow, you all came here today wondering, okay, I'm celebrating my loved one, and now you're beginning to realize that your hope for this generation is just a little better, a little stronger. Am I right? What remarkable people. So brave. So yes, exactly. There is an applause. How about if we do that? So brave. The sun is brightening a little bit. The day is brightening a little bit, and that bodes well for those of you who are going to be going to Franklin Field, which is outdoors last time I checked, without a roof, for the graduation ceremonies tonight. And they will be fabulous, and there will actually be faux diplomas at least handed out. But we hope that you are already enjoying this as an intimate, community-based version of this that is really the foundation of the wholesale thing that the university must do because of its size. So thank you for listening so closely and feeling the sentiments for everyone. I have my Jamie pin. You can't see it. Some of us can. There's a smile that you'll never forget. That's Jamie. Happy Jamie. Jamie, would you come on up? So, to say that you hit the ground running is, to say the least. You came a long way from home. Home has always been far away from here, which has presented its own difficulties. And at first, it meant that you needed to strike out on your own and figure your own thing out. And you took the hardest classes right away, and then the next year you started taking graduate classes. You crazy fool. I mean, that was, I know, it was my class. You were such stunning presence in that graduate seminar. The graduate students, the doctoral students, some of them well along in their doctoral careers kept coming to me and saying, what graduate program is he in? Because I don't recognize him from the English program. Well, he's a freshman, a sophomore, I guess you were. You've done so much daringly in the curriculum, and you forgot a few things like the math requirement. I understand. I looked at your transcript yesterday, and ideas in mathematics was this semester, I believe. How'd you do?
Fine.
You may. It's just a thing at the Writers' House that ideas in math. When did you take yours? You probably never took it. You probably never got the degree, Julie. Math for poets. Well. Oh, I don't even want to know.
Me neither.
But then it culminates. I mean, there's so many FOJs here, friends of Jamie. So many. I'm an FOJ. I got my pin. And then you just went ahead and did the honors thesis, creative writing honors thesis. The thesis is entitled What Have You? Which, boy, that title cuts a whole bunch of ways. What have you? Like, and also, what do you have? Taking stock. And, of course, characteristic of Jamie, underestimating his powers, his intellectual powers, and his academic powers. He submitted it. I'm sure it was hard, and you were reticent about submitting it, I hear. And then you submitted it, and then you, I imagine, went about your Jamie life. And then it turns out that the committee that read the theses anonymously awarded this guy right here the prize for the best thesis in creative writing at the University of Pennsylvania. I'm proud of you, Jamie. I'm happy to be FOJ. I'm so excited about what's going to happen next, and I hope you will be easy on yourself. Sorry, that didn't come out. I want you to be easy on yourself. You've got so much to offer. Just let it spill out. It'll happen. I'm so proud of you. Congratulations. Jamie Albrecht.
I think I'm actually leaving college less jaded and cynical than I came in, which is weird. But I came to the Writers' House via getting rejected by the Adroit Journal and then passing me along to Jamie-Lee Josselyn, which was kind of funny that he was like, well, we don't want your stuff, but it's good, so send it along anyway to this lady. Bizarre, but I came in and I sat in on Al's class when I was 17, and I had the nerve to disagree with him. under my breath. And that streak continued. I think you heard me, you asked if something was a sentence. It was, this is just to say. And I said no. And you said, well, obviously it is. And then stampeded forward.
So much for progressive pedagogy.
You had a point to make to some 30-odd students. Apparently. Yeah, I made it after class. But I was so cocky and confident when I came into Penn, and the Writers' House just has reminded me to take it easy, as Al said, to take a break, to quit that club that you really don't need, and to just kind of sit on the couch and hang out. And it's okay to not have energy. Like, I remember one time I was kind of in the kitchen, and Alli came up to me and was just like, you know, we all love you here. And it was truly one of the most grounding moments of my time at Penn, from my boss, which is weird. But I've never felt anything but support from other student staffers, my advisor, who I'm a little too similar to, Al. He decided that it was okay that I didn't take any requirements until senior year. One way or another. But I started writing because I wanted something that I could do alone in my room. And I realized that the happiest I could be writing and making art is in a community surrounded by other people who have thoughts that I would never have come across, I would never have originated alone. So thank you guys for being a community with me.
Jamie Albrecht. Next up, and there's some hugs in the first row happening here. Next up, Quinn Gruber is being celebrated and introduced by Jessica Lowenthal. Quinn Gruber! Quinn Gruber! Quinn!
Hi, Quinn. Okay. Quinn is a brilliant editor, translator, musician, writer, Joyce scholar, experimentalist, activist, zine maker. Quinn is so multifaceted. I consulted with a few people, and Paul Saint-Amour said, Quinn is formidable, with an enviable ability to fuse rigor and play. This year, we almost got into a tug of war with the people at Penn Press when they tapped Quinn for a special internship. But ultimately, we were actually just really proud to say, oh, yes, we know an amazing editor. We know we have somebody to send your way. And I think what could have been a tug of war just turned into a kind of a mutual admiration society. They adored Quinn. Here at Writers' House, I think we came to depend on Quinn's unparalleled attention to detail in editing. The managing editor of Jacket 2, who really wanted to be here but couldn't today, kind of told me what a great editor Quinn is, but also wanted me to mention the playful artistic flair that Paul had also noted. Kenna still treasures a meticulous little hand-drawn alien button that Quinn made several summers ago, I believe with Yiwei. Apparently, you all handed Kenna some buttons that you'd spent some time making. Quinn's advisor, Tej Silberman, wanted me to say that Quinn doesn't do anything sloppily ever. The deliberation behind their work, Tej says, is almost palpable, which makes this certain special quality all the more surprising. A startling lightness or gentleness in that deliberateness that feels very unique to Quinn. I just want to end there and say that is unique, this two-sidedness, precision and gentleness, scholarly acumen and playfulness. This is uncommon. Rigor and creative swerve. I'm proud that we are a place that's possible, and that Quinn spent time here showing that to us. And we've all been so amazed. Quinn Gruber.
Thank you so much, Jessica. I feel like if I thank everybody that I've met and loved and been with at the Writers' House, it will take at least 15 days. So I'm just going to send some far too long emails later. But about the buttons, I remember sitting on the floor of the hub office upstairs with Yiwei my freshman summer when I started working at the Writers' House. And we were sitting making buttons that I still have on my own backpack to this day. And Alli walked in and we looked up, Yiwei and I, sitting cross-legged on the floor at Alli. She looked down, and I was also like, oh no, we're making buttons at work. This is decidedly not a work task. But it was completely fine, and it was excellent. And I'm so grateful to have been able to work and live at this place. I feel like I'm not going to find a better job than this. But I wanted to tell a particular story. I remember one day in the Writers' House kitchen. I had come to the Writers' House after a long day of classes and work and felt very overwhelmed. And the Writers' House kitchen, which is a definite social hub, was bustling and bright as usual. And it felt normally, while it's supportive and warm, it was overwhelming at that time. And instead of just expecting me to leave or find a quieter spot, the staffers and friends who were there turned down the lights and sat quietly with me until I felt calmer and more centered. And at an institution like Penn that encourages you to conceal your uncertainty or fear or pain, it is astoundingly unique that a place like this exists that will make the space to accommodate you and support you and not expect you to go somewhere else to suffer. And I am infinitely grateful for the Writers' House support of all of the different strange projects I've been involved in. I mean, with that freshman summer, a large part of it was supporting the zine library, which you can find upstairs if you're interested. But I spent my time just reading and cataloging zines about somebody's Altoid collection, 2005 Tumblr, a list of different just windowsills that somebody had seen. And I think that having the space to sit and appreciate those little books and people's experiences has allowed me to slow down and breathe in a way that nowhere else has. And I am going to miss the Writers' House immensely. I have really felt so grateful not only to be a part of this community, but to be able to welcome other people. I can't tell you how many friends that haven't been in the Writers' House community before, but I've eagerly pulled them by the hand into the kitchen and made them tea, and they've asked me, is this for me? Like, am I allowed to just take this tea? And the Writers' House's answer is yes. All of this is for you, and you don't have to feel guilty about taking up this space. And it is so incredibly unique and beautiful. And thank you, everybody. I love you so much.
Quinn Gruber. Yeah, Quinn. Kaliyah Dorsey. It's Kaliyah's turn to come up and sit in this seat. Hey, Kaliyah. I've known Kaliyah through the Writers' House her entire time here, but in the last 3 semesters, I've gotten to know Kaliyah quite well. We've done 3 successive courses together. That's a year and a half. And this semester, you always sat, we're a small circle in this room, always sat just to my left, knowing full well and beginning to discern a certain pedagogy that looks like it knows what it's doing, but is mostly scared shitless that no one will have something to say. And Kaliyah not scared of the role of a student and reader and writer and critic, and also prospective teacher, was ready whenever I got stuck and would turn and say, Kaliyah, what do you think about that? Or what are your thoughts? Really open-ended question. That's been fun. And so I began to realize that as her teacher, that Kaliyah was bound to become a teacher. And then it became clear that Kaliyah was sending out applications to doctoral programs around the country. And I am happy to say, to announce here what many of Kaliyah's friends, family members already know, but the rest of the community might not, that pretty soon Kaliyah will be gathering up her things and crossing the country to this little town named Los Angeles. And there, Kaliyah will begin her role as a distinguished graduate fellow, someone who's been awarded a graduate doctoral fellowship at the University of California, Los Angeles, otherwise known as UCLA. And this is going to work out because you are so great. All I want to do here is to quote and then briefly comment upon something that you wrote this semester. We had been talking about Caroline Bergvall's odd and interesting and compelling book, Alisoun Sings, based on The Wife of Bath from Chaucer. And what Caroline did is to riff on that and think about women across the ages and about gender fluidity and about just the whole problem of being a body in the world and trying to fulfill the expectation that everybody has that no matter how that body fits in the world, you will still be able to promulgate language that everyone will understand. And this is what Kaliyah wrote. Can't believe I'm quoting you, and you didn't warn you about this. I'm sorry. I hope you like it. But bear in mind that this is not just a person who is writing a paper for a course for which there's a grade, but also someone going into essentially a professionalization mode of becoming a doctoral student and a professor. But listen to the writing and how it sings. Love, dreams, language. I enjoyed this chapter of Caroline Bergvall's Alisoun Sings the most, partly because I am usually drawn to topics about love and responsibility. Possibility, love and possibility. Responsibility too, probably, but love and possibility. But also because I felt that Bergvall's language play was particularly fitting to these topics, love and possibility. I think a lot about how to describe feelings and how you feel them in a way that breaks the limitations of language. When I say limitations of language, I mean in the sense that it feels like as a writer, you're always looking for the right word, techniques, the right forms, the right comparisons to communicate your point. Yet our vocabulary generalizes forms, feelings, experiences to singular words. Words separately cannot communicate a unique truth, as I understand it. How might we play with words? Put them together and break them open in a way that is unique and creates possibility. Kaliyah is someone who has figured out that she has the capacity and talent as a writer and a thinker and soon as a teacher to create possibility for other people by breaking down the expectation that's been much commented upon this morning, that we would always have the right word to describe something unfathomable. As Kaliyah says, words cannot communicate a unique truth. How might we play with words, put them together, and break them open in a way that creates possibility? I present to you Kaliyah Dorsey, soon to be a BA, who is going to be one of those scholars and teachers, colleague in the field, who will create a new kind of possibility for her students and for our world. Nothing less than that, Kaliyah Dorsey.
Hi, everyone. I didn't think I was going to be nervous. It has been a really long ride. My experience at Kelly Ryder's house, I came here the summer before my freshman year, a week before new student orientation, and just walked in and said, I want a job here. And Alli interviewed me on the spot. And on the first day of my freshman year, I was working at Kelly Ryder's house. I've been working here ever since. And while it took me some time to really leave the computer chair upstairs, I've been working on the web team, and I spent my whole first year tied to the computer and scared to go down to the kitchen. The house has always been a consistent central place in my life, even since that first day. I remember some of my most important, memorable moments of my life and how at some point or another in each experience, I found myself in Kelly Ryder's house, celebrating my first grad acceptance. And I also submitted my first grad application here, trying to make tea and calm my anxiety about exams or interviews or just being at Penn, setting up shop in the student project space to crank out finals or graduate school apps. I owe so much to the peace that Kelly Ryder's house was able to bring me throughout my experience at Penn, and that has everything to do with every person who I've experienced here, who's taking class here, who sat on the big green couch with me, who sat and waited awkwardly for the tea kettle to get hot with me. I want to thank Alli, Jessica, Zach, Heidi, Lily, and Andrew for making Kelly Ryder's house a place that was way more than a work-study job. It really was a house and a home for me. I want to thank my coworkers and my peers for being themselves and livening up this space. Our kitchen conversations, making baked goods. I really appreciate your friendship. I want to thank Al a million times for reigniting a passion for English and literature that I had tried to convince myself was unproductive and dumb. In Penn culture, which I'm sure many people have spoken about already. Besides all the ways that Al has spoken life into me and my ideas, he embodies exactly the sort of kind, uplifting, and generous professor and person I will attempt to be from the start of my career till the end. I want to thank my family for being here. Lastly, I want to thank my mom. Jesus, I said I wasn't going to cry. You're my first and my only role model. You have loved and supported me to places neither of us have ever imagined. I'm standing up here because of your sacrifices and your love, and I can't thank you enough.
And there's a hug. Congratulations, Kaliyah. Okay, we're getting there, guys, and thank you so much for feeling the feels for everybody, and not just your favorite senior, but so many others. Next up is Husnaa, Hashim. Husnaa is going to be introduced by Jessica Lowenthal. Husnaa. Let's hear it for Husnaa.
Husnaa. Husnaa is a poet, an expansive thinker, and a maker of things. Really, Husnaa makes amazing things, poems and socks and sweaters and beautiful, beautiful fiber art. They make the most stunning collages in which ancestors appear, including literary foremothers and other artists. And it's all part of the vision. I mean, sunflower crowns. Husnaa also makes the most amazing mac and cheese. We'd ordered what turned out to be really mediocre mac and cheese, and rather than simply being sad about it like the rest of us, they just made better mac and cheese. Husnaa makes better stuff. Husnaa has helped make this space what it is. You invited other fiber artists to convene here. You brought amazing poets here. You made the kitchen a place for talking about real things. I mean, we talked about math of all things, and sewing machines and farming, and about education and what we wished education could be or what it should be. You helped me through some real life middle school dilemmas and crises, including how to carry a backpack. And I have a 12-year-old. I'm grateful for that. I know you will be an extraordinary teacher, whether it's formal or on the way, as you go. You've taught me. You approach things from all directions, using history and literature and film and philosophy, but also touch and feel and color and thread and stitching and connectivity. You're interested in what came before and what's happening now and what might be. And I have this sense that you'll make the world much better. I want to end really simply with some words from Simone White. Husnaa is a deep, generous thinker, free with praise, quick to smile, admired by all, young and old. Here's Husnaa.
I knew I was gonna cry. I wasn't trying to stop. Oh God. I want to say that I have done and learned many things. I have done and learned many things. I've studied math through tears. I've experienced immense hardship and grief. I've lost elders. I've knit through it, casting the grief onto my needles. I've had friendships end. I've formed chosen family. I've experienced love. I've invested in my mental health and witnessed my growth. I've written poems. I've had complicated conversations. I've planned my own programs. I've studied Persian. I've had my identities challenged and have been told who I am or that I'm not who I am. I've met an abundance of prolific writers and thinkers who I've learned great things from. I've learned and done all of these things at the spot I claimed at the proverbial green kitchen table at Kaliyah Dorsey. I've created art, and I've brought a piece of art to share with you today from my big pocket. This is a little self-portrait, and I'll pass it. I created it as a final project for a class. It's a self-portrait of myself and a mirror inspired by a selfie that I took. This house is my house. In this house, I have a garden and flowers, and I can put my hands on my hips and exist in my power and heal. And at my house, I recognize the meaning of the phases of night and day and what they teach us about change. I'm wearing an icky pink colored top, a color that I've come to love through my grief and continue to knit with. I knit a swatch and duplicate stitched on top of it, which is essentially a form of knitted embroidery. I call this my grief color because it says, for me, the icky feelings of loss and heartache and kind of redirects misdirected energy. Something about the color is putrid fury that is maddeningly attractive. This piece was subconsciously inspired by Kelly Ryder's house, for I desire a space all my own to come back to again and again that symbolizes groundedness and stability as I enter the world. There is a beauty to a space like this with such a dedicated purpose and intention that is clear. There are values and lessons that I've learned in this house that I'll take with me to my house or whatever kind of space of sacredness I hope to create in the world. And I've been inspired by these values. And there are numerous times that I've almost left Penn, not to mention not being crazy about coming here to begin with, but I can't emphasize enough the rock that the Kelly Writers House has been for me, nor can I emphasize enough the love that I have for Alli. Sorry. and Jessica and Heidi and Jamie-Lee and Al and Lily and Andrew and my coworkers. People who have witnessed me grow and navigate moments as a human being. And I'm so deeply grateful, and I'm thankful for everyone who's here today. Thank you.
Husnaa, Hashim. Thank you, Husnaa. That was beautiful. Congratulations. How are you all doing? We have 2 more seniors to celebrate, and then I'll remind you of what's going to happen next. There's a lot of food, there's champagne, there's space to sit outside, and so forth. I'll remind you of that. And buttons. And buttons. Rachel Dennis, and come on up, Rachel Dennis, and Alli. Katz is going to introduce Rachel.
I don't think I've worn makeup in like 7 years. This is not the day to start. Okay, so my first memory of Rachel is their first hub meeting, freshman year, I think sitting next to Quinn. Yeah, and this is like a big informational meeting, and there's a lot of people, and everyone's really enthusiastic. Rachel's enthusiasm was outstanding. They stayed and wanted to fold chairs and help clean things up, and they stuck around. Rachel did not work here. Also, I want to be clear. A lot of people here worked here. Rachel did not at that time work here. And Rachel decided to be here and to do all the things and just to do it. And there's so many. Rachel was our press assistant, working with Mary, who says Rachel's enthusiasm spans both printing and shop org, and celebrated their skill on things both glamorous and decidedly not. Organizing metal type is decidedly not glamorous. And Kevin Platt, who worked closely with Rachel on a project, said Rachel was an amazing person to work with on the Your Language, My Ear website development project. We had some wonderful discussions on contemporary Russian poetry with them during the pandemic summer. It got me through that year to work with them. Rachel speaks Russian, which is actually not something I knew until I was gathering information for this very speech. Some other things Rachel does. Rachel wrote an honors thesis. Rachel was the ultimate vibe-creating speakeasy host, which is not an easy job here at all. Rachel's directed plays and so on and so on and so on. And I don't know if Rachel considers themselves a go-getter. Do you, Rachel? No, Rachel is a go-getter. An ultimate go-getter. And really, I can't describe, though, how just personally delightful I find Rachel. During their time here, I became a parent twice. And it's true. I went from being not a parent, like not even a little bit, to being like a 2-time parent. And Rachel's humor during this was like so weirdly comforting. And just one of the things about working here is I get to see amazing, amazing students grow into who they are. I think I said that with Eva, and it's just to see that with Rachel has been really a delight. But also you were already so like mature and like grown up to begin with. So anyway, for the next year, Rachel will be doing whatever Rachel feels like, because they're taking a gap year before going to Glasgow to study art writing. I'm sure that they spell theater with an R-E there. It's going to be very cool, very highfalutin. But I also know that during that year, Rachel's going to amass so many awesome, hilarious stories that I'll be eagerly awaiting every visit that I know that you'll provide. I know that you're going to come back over and over again, and we're going to sit around, and you're going to catch me up on all the stuff that I'll already know because I follow you on Instagram, and you post stuff to your stories all the time. Rachel, I will miss you. You have been so special here and so great, and there's like bagpipes coming in the background. I don't know if anybody can like hear that, but it's like a swell of music. And I wish you the best, but I know you're going to do the things that you deserve to do and be who you deserve to be in this world. And that's just so beautiful. And I can't wait to see it.
I had, when we started talking about Gabrielle Hamilton, I had a little Gabrielle Hamilton anecdote, and I realized if I shared it, I would just cry for the whole 3 minutes, so I'm going to save it for myself. I'm going to talk about two things, crying and sleeping, because I do both those things here regularly. So I cried right there a couple of months ago on the phone with my dad and stepmom, who are both in the audience. Because I thought I wasn't going to get into grad school because I wasn't a good enough writer or artist. And we'll come back to that later. I've also slept in this room. I've slept on the cold, hard bench as you're sitting on right now. I've slept on the couch, the brown leather couch in the back. I've also slept on the green couch in the back. I've slept in the bean bag upstairs. All of this during hours I was paid by the University of Pennsylvania to be doing work. Most memorably, and most importantly, emotionally, I passed out from exhaustion on the floor in the back office where Alli and Zach work. And Jessica came in, I recall, in my sleepy haze, and was like, are they comfortable on the floor? And it didn't really matter. And I got a little blanket, and I got a solid 2 hours in on the ground. And despite that, everyone in this house is still my friend. They still see me as a productive member of a society, as a person worth knowing and talking to, whose opinions matter very much. And this is a place on Penn's campus that I can rely on giving me that sensation of being a human who deserves to live. And I appreciate that very much. I've been crying this whole time, mostly because of Mary Tassilo, who's sitting in the back. When I was crying, as I mentioned earlier, over there, I was worried about not being a good writer or artist, and I am both of those things because of Mary Tassilo, who is the director of the Common Press, which introduced me to the 1970 Vandercook Metal Artisanal Press. If you've ever gotten a broadside at any of our events, those are printed on that. And she taught me how to use it, and she taught me how to be very detail-oriented, which I wasn't really. I was kind of more of a big picture person, and then she was like, the periods are really small, and if you don't look at them, you can't see them. And I was like, oh, this is going to take hours and hours and hours, and putting all the type back where it's supposed to go is going to take hours and hours, and it was wonderful. It was so wonderful to just be in there. Sorting type, it's very pedantic. And she gave me those hours that I'm so grateful that I'll never get back, and a direction forward, because without it, the job, I wouldn't be going to Glasgow or have anything on the docket whatsoever. She saved my life in a million ways. One time when I had vertigo and still went to work, she said, go home because you're going to hit your head on the side of the big hard metal corner of the press and die. So I left. And that's, I don't know. That's just it. I love her. I loved this job. I love all my friends. A lot of people have been like, oh, the house is the people. But the house is also the house. I wrote something that I don't have the wherewithal to read, but the bulk of it was, I love the physical entity that is this house. I'm from an apartment. I lived in an apartment my whole life. This is great. There are like 10 bathrooms in here. And it's got the stapled picture of Jessica when she had her bob in like 2003 or whatever. That's really it. Penn was difficult, as I'm sure you're all aware. Penn kind of sucks. Don't tell anyone. But this is the place that makes it all worth it. That made me tell Gabrielle Hamilton, there it is. She said, do you regret coming to Penn? Did you just come here because your parents told you to come here and wanted you to come here? And I said, well, that was undoubtedly part of it. But because I was standing in the writer's house kitchen, I couldn't say that I regretted it. Because how could I regret
Wow, thank you, Rachel Dennis. That was amazing. That was amazing. Where is Mary? Mary, will you stand up? This is Mary Cecilio right there. Okay, our last celebrant, last but not least, Chelsey Zhu. Will you come up, Chelsey? And emerging from the spot in the room where he hides often and runs technology, runs the sound, runs the camera, really likes to be back there and not behind a podium. So you have to have just give Zach just the kindest, sweetest waves so he feels like it's not so uncomfortable being behind the podium. But he has so much good stuff to say about Chelsey. I'm very excited. Zach Carduner.
Thanks, Al. I expected this kind of wave, so. Thanks, Devon. This story actually begins in the same back office where Rachel so gracefully slumbered. When Chelsey stopped by the back office at the beginning of last semester with her Bichon Shih Tzu mix Dolce in tow, and she asked offhandedly whether there was still a position for her available with us in the studio, I played it cool. Yeah, we can probably figure it out, I said, but I was secretly moved and deeply honored. You see, Chelsey had started with us as a freshman back in the fall of 2018. She was quiet then, like a lot of freshmen, and though she had expressed enthusiasm for the studio position, I had never really got the sense that it was for her. I was, in fact, never really sure what you were looking for at all. And then we lost her. She moved on to greener pastures, working variously for obscure outlets like XPN and factcheck.org. That makes sense, I thought. Those are great gigs. It always feels a little bad when a work-study student leaves, even if it's for a straightforward reason, like they got a better opportunity somewhere else. You can't help but feel like there was something more you could have done for them, though, just to keep them engaged, or some way you could have been more useful in helping them with their own personal or career goals. Once the pandemic rolled around, I figured that was it. Chelsey's time with the Writers' House was long gone. But here she was again, at long last, there's my nose. And by George, she was different. I want to work in podcasting, she declared, and it was like a bomb went off. We have a podcasting studio, I thought. We were the right place for Chelsey. Chelsey had left Writers' House with a question mark, but she came storming back with an exclamation point. Armed with a laptop and a mic, Pro Tools, her family dog, and a newfound cobalt allergy, she set to work. My name is Chelsey, she writes in her November 21 piece called The Love Troll. I'm 21 years old and I'm a hopeless romantic. And that may be true, but even more so, she's a masterful narrator. Whether it's fabricating wholesome anecdotes on the relationship advice subreddit to prove that a positive love story can earn upvotes on Reddit, or delving into the personal dating histories of her friends for her fledgling Love in College podcast, which I highly recommend. Chelsey constantly demonstrates a grasp not just of telling true stories, but of true storytelling. I'm proud to have served as a humble stepping stone in what will undoubtedly be an interesting and amazing career for Chelsey. And whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever else I get my podcasts, I'll always like, subscribe, and comment to Chelsey Zhu.
This is going to be hard to read because it's not zooming out correctly. Fine. I wanted to address my speech to my family because this is their very first Writers' House event. And I want to introduce the people I love the most to the place that has meant the most to me these past 4 years. So to my mom, dad, sister, and baby nephew, this is the Kelly Writers' House, which is a place on Penn's campus that for me is my Penn experience. I had actually never heard of Penn before I attended a summer camp in high school where a former Writers' House staffer, Meg Pendoli, was a TA. She put me in touch with Jamie-Lee, and who's now my advisor, and without the both of them, I would not be here today. So, as Zach said, I'm going to repeat some stuff. I first worked at the Writers' House my freshman year, which is when I first met all the wonderful people who have supported me during undergrad. First is Alli, one of like 6 people I refer to as my boss, because I think of every non-student at the Writers' House as my boss. I think of Alli as the personified door to the Writers' House. Not only did she interview me and hire me for the job freshman year, she also, along with Zach, offered me my job back when I randomly walked in at the start of my senior year. I'd left my job for 2 years because I worked somewhere else, and that whole time I was filled with regret because I didn't feel like I was a part of the Writers' House anymore. But the moment that I stepped into the back office just to say hi, Alli asked me, "So, do you want your job back?" And just like that, it felt like I had never left. My other bosses include Heidi, who has the best dog that isn't my dog, and who graciously allowed me to bring my dog, Dolce, with me to work. Dolce is now an unofficial staffer of the Writers' House. There's also Jessica, whose level of parental worrying is outmatched only by her sweetness and generosity, and who lovingly admires Dolce from a distance while also telling me that she hates dogs. I love both Heidi and Jessica for their openness and willingness to start a conversation about literally anything at any time, which I think embodies the best part of the Writers' House community. Al, that guy over there, is the faculty director of the Writers' House and is someone that I have admired from a distance for years. But this semester, I was finally able to take class with him, the Writers' House Fellow Seminar, which takes place in this very room every Monday afternoon. I'm so glad that I was able to have him as my professor. Being in that class has led to so many unforgettable memories for me, which include sitting next to 2 famous authors at swanky dinners, going to my first baseball game, and taking my final course with my fellow classmate, roommate, and bestie, Erinda. And lastly, there is Zach, who introduced me and is the most boss of all of my bosses because I work directly under him. Zach is an exceedingly kind and patient mentor who has gone out of his way to help me in every possible way. Ever since I told him I was interested in working in podcasts, he has spent hours teaching me how to edit, helping me brainstorm, and giving me feedback on my projects. We've also spent hours talking about everything under the sun, including our time attending high school at 2 different schools that were both called Central, his hot take that Ratatouille is the most overrated Pixar movie, which I don't agree with, but anyway, his record of eating 6 hot dogs on Dollar Dog Day at Citizens Bank Park, and our mutual obsession with reality TV dating shows. Words can't express how much I'm going to miss walking into the back office with Dolce on weekday afternoons, ranting with Zach for 30 minutes straight about the latest episode of Love is Blind, and then possibly doing some work. Those are all of my shout-outs. But there are, of course, countless other staffers and students at the Writers' House who have made this place special to me. I owe my happiest moments of college to this house and the people in it. I'm so happy that I'm able to end my senior year by introducing my family to the people who have raised me at Penn and who have helped turn me into a semi-functioning adult. Thank you.
Chelsey Zhu. Yeah. So, what's going to happen tonight and tomorrow morning is that there will be applause. It'll sound a lot like what you've been hearing today. There'll be more hands coming together, but it'll basically be human applause, the same. The difference is that when that applause occurs, it will be for a whole bunch of people. Unindividuated, the class of 2022. Yeah. But now what we're going to do, finally, before we eat and toast, is to put our hands together for individuals who form collectively the class of the Kelly Writers' House of 2022, with whom we individually will continue to be in touch, who will always be in our hearts as people who take the ideas of this place outward to others. They are individuals. I'm going to ask them if they don't mind, and a couple people had to leave, but we're still going to applaud them. I'm going to ask them, as I say their names, for them to stand up and for you to applaud them like applause is going out of style. Yiwei Chai, will you stand up, Yiwei? Rowana Miller, Rowana right there. Eva Lewis had to leave, but let's applaud Eva. Ilyse Reisman over there. Reisman. I see Rachel Swym right there. Front row guy, Devon Inman right there. Erinda Sheno. Jessica Bow. There's Jessica. Jamie Albrecht, front row right here. Quinn Gruber there. Kaliyah Dorsey right there. Husnaa Hashim right there. Rachel Dennis. Chelsey Zhu. There they are, everybody. We love you all. Thank you. So look, I know it's a tight space and you've got your masks, and probably in order to eat and drink, they'll have to go down. But for a moment, let's all be together as best we can in that room. Hasten to pour yourself a little bit of champagne. We're going to pop those bottles. I haven't heard them pop yet. Let's get going back there. We want you, even if you're not a champagne drinker, everybody except for the little baby nephew should have a little champagne. And then somehow, despite my minuscule size, I will be standing up on a chair, and I hope we will have a toast to everyone. Then eat. We can go outside. There's a tent. Hang out. Stay as long as you like. The fact is that just going on Locust Walk will be kind of impossible right now because there's just people parading. Ridiculous. So stay as long as you like. And as you leave, make sure you hug everybody you care about. Make sure that you enjoy as best you can. The big ceremony is about to happen, but we're so glad that you came. One more time, these friends, parents, loved ones, adopted family, co-workers, fellow students, the people who are not being celebrated today, let us, the celebrants, thank them for their heart-filled support of you all. Thank you so much to those people. All right. Somehow, and you can go out that way too, we're going to the dining room to toast. Thank you again for coming, and please, we'll see you in the dining room.